Everyone is joining us. Hello and welcome. Again, I'm Amy Daniels. I'm Senior Vice President of Investor Relations for the Greater Memphis Chamber. Pitch hitting for my colleague Nancy Coffey, our Senior Vice President of the Chairman's Circle. At the beginning of the pandemic, we all came together internally to talk about what we were hearing from you, our members. And one of the things that kept reiterating was culture. And with that, we thought, what could we do? What could we put together to really bring it home and provide you with instant information that you can take back and apply to your own businesses? We have an incredible resource within our Chairman's Circle. Our members are some of the top CEOs of some of the biggest and smallest companies in Memphis. And they have offered their leadership, their advice, their guidance, their team members to participate with us on this important topic. So for the past few weeks, we've been hearing from members of our Chairman's Circle member companies and their team members on the importance of culture and what they do within their companies. Today, we are picking up from last week when David Dart, Chief Human Resource Officer at ServiceMaster, shared with us the purposeful ways to keep and have the culture connection with your team members. And we're continuing that conversation today with a group of individuals who will discuss how they maintain the culture connection within their organizations. And our dear, dear friend, longtime member and confidant of the Greater Memphis Chamber, Sally Pace, who is CEO of Connect Healthcare Collaboration, is serving as our moderator today. And Sally, we are so very grateful for all that you have put into this webinar today and for your guidance and your leadership. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, we are excited. Amy, part of the work that our team does as it relates to culture centers around communication. It's done through employee engagement and change management in all things HR related. So clearly communicating in order to keep the culture connection alive is key to our business, and it's incredibly important to us. And I want to, you mentioned David's session last week, and I want to just hit on a couple of things that I think were really powerful for those as we continue that conversation. When he talked about culture connection and what how it's going to help companies succeed, talking about the new normal has forced faster decisions to be made, and how do you direct leaders in the company to identify disengagement, and then how do you plan to address it? And he said, at the end, it all comes down to communication. So we hope to have an candid conversation around that topic today, around culture connection. I know we've got a great group of attendees in the queue here, and today is designed to be just that, a discussion around this topic. So I'm going to start by introducing our panelists, or letting them introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their background and why today's topic matters to them. I'd like to start with Tera Jackson, Vice President of Human Resources at IMC Company. Hey, Tera.
Hey, how are y'all doing? I'm Tera Jackson. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources for IMC Companies. I've been here for 14 years. I started as a payroll specialist and benefits specialist. So I've worked my way up from when we were less than 100 employees to now we have 1,800 in workforce. So personally, I feel that culture connection is extremely important. And we've had to go through a lot of growing pains to figure that out. They're good growing pains though. In an everyday environment, culture connection is extremely important. You throw a couple curveballs, say you have an acquisition, which we do annually, and then you have COVID, which has rocked a lot of our worlds because of change. It's even more. And for us, communication and training is a big key to that.
Awesome. I know we're going to dig more into that in a little bit, but next up is Melissa Candel. She is the Director of Marketing at OrthoSouth.
Hi, thank you for having me today. I am the Director of Marketing at OrthoSouth, and I actually have not always been in marketing. I've spent quite a bit of my past career in the legal world in law firm management, and I have seen good culture, bad culture, and everything in between. Cohesive culture, post-merger culture. which is actually where I am with OrthoSouth now. In 2019, we merged 3 orthopedic groups into one. And so it's been great. We kind of had to build our brand new culture from the ground up, taking some of the best practices from each of those legacy groups. And for me, one of the big, most important pieces of culture is getting people at the very first point of contact when we hire people in, letting them know and set the tone for what the culture is that they're coming into, so that you're a good fit for them, so that they are a good fit for you, so that everyone understands what we're doing together, because it is truly a team effort across the organization to keep things going in a positive direction.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next, we have Thomas Holmes. He's the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Evolve Bank and Trust. Thomas, tell us about you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I've been with Evolve for about 3.5 years, and prior to that, I was in local television for 17. And so that may seem like an odd transition, but when you work in marketing for as long as I have, it really doesn't matter if you're in television or banking. And many of you may be asking, what does the marketing guy know about culture? And the reality is marketing is everything, internal and external. Everything you touch, the way the receptionist answers the phone is all marketing. That's all culture too. So I work very close with our SVP of Human Resources and all of our employee engagement. And it's something that our CEO, Scott Stafford, who couldn't be here today, wanted the marketing and HR department, because we're the ones that get the word out. The communication, as Sally mentioned before from last week's presentation, is so critical. And so as the CMCO, it's very important that we keep that line of communications open with our employees, because you don't want them to feel isolated and like they're on an island, especially during these times.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, we've got Bob Wilson, the CEO of Sherry's Group.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm Chief Cook and Bottle Washer for a suite of international companies. That includes the Sherry's Group, Saga International, PCG Global Trade, and Port Alliance Logistics. And I'm excited when people are confused enough to ask my opinion about culture. But I'm excited because it is everything to me. And I'm one of those people that says that on a frequent basis. Culture is everything. I believe culture drives innovation, it drives sales, it drives profitability, it drives sustainability, but most importantly, it drives all of us who are team members in this big conglomeration that we have. It drives us to just simply be better, happy, and profitable for ourselves and for the company. And ultimately that leads to a sustaining long-term legacy that we can all just embrace and enjoy. So I look forward to sharing with you whatever little thoughts I can share to be helpful, and look forward to learning a lot from the other speakers today.
Awesome. You use 3 key words: better, happy, and profitable. I think anyone on this call today would like to be at least 2, if not 3 of those things. So I want to invite all of our speakers to now turn your cameras on. You cannot escape that easily. Come back. And we're going to dive in. So first, I want to start out by asking each of you to describe your company's culture. It can be a couple of words. You may have a written statement. Thomas, you're up to my left, so I'm going to let you start.
Okay. I would use the word contemporary. What we've done is look at cultures from a variety of different companies and backgrounds, setting the standard from the Apples and the Googles of the world right down, and trying to be really forward thinking and take what used to be a positive culture back maybe 10 years ago and really fast track that. And how can we make it more of a up-to-date, contemporary culture that also really is inclusive and diverse of all ages and backgrounds, so that our millennials feel just as welcome as some of our veterans.
Love it. All right, Melissa, you're next up in my lineup. So how would you describe it?
I would say we're very determined. Coming together in 2019, we're very determined to kind of be this big happy family, to learn each other's different organizational structures, to pull together our best practices, and really to be the best of ourselves that we can be. It's come down from its top-down leadership. So our CEO, Jenkins, who could not be here today, has really tried to promote from our, from our C-level to our physicians, to everyone in our back office, and everyone in between, just this idea that we're all in this together, and we are working to be the best orthopedic practice that we can be in the United States.
Awesome. Tera?
Okay, so from our standpoint, it would be growth oriented. We typically double every 5 years, so that's kind of huge. And then innovative, you think of COVID-19, we have just some of the ideas that have come out of it and ways to keep the employees not having to lay anybody off and just to keep moving through the challenges. And then team oriented, our teams work together beautifully.
Bob?
Well, you can define our culture really by our mission, which I have to step back a little bit. We're 9 companies across 6 countries. There's 3 business partners, 5 different value propositions, so the companies don't actually work on the same thing, and 5 different languages. And so given that I struggle with English, you can imagine how tough it is when 60% of my employees I can't speak to without a translator. So our culture is built around the concept of the wolf pack, which is everyone wins together. So that's why I was graciously announced as the CEO, and I corrected it as chief bottle washer and cook. We don't carry titles in our company, and as you can tell, I'm in my cube right here with everyone else. I don't have an office in any of those locations, but our culture is really summarized by our mission statement, which is earn all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. Because we felt if we had that as an overriding mission, it would drive a culture that is cohesive despite all the differences that we have, whether it be geography, language, culture, or value proposition.
Awesome. That's incredible. What you just said, I think is going to get people's wheels turning. You all have all just talked about the uniqueness of your company and the importance of culture. So I do want to remind all of our attendees that you have the ability to contribute to the conversation. I won't call on you, but if you will submit questions, there's a Q&A feature or chat feature, whichever is easiest for you. We encourage you to use that, because we're going to go through a couple of questions that I have for each of you, and then we want to make sure that you're engaged and you're asking questions as well. So next up, I want to talk to you all about you've each had personal leadership in or the design of your company's culture. What has been the biggest challenge you faced in that area, and how did you overcome it? This time I'm going to start, Tera, with you.
Okay. For us, being a growth-oriented company, change is honestly our biggest factor. So sometimes our employees, it's easy to get frustrated when you come in and maybe a month ago you did a task this way, but this month we need you to do it this way. So for us, it's important for communication. They need to understand the whys and the hows. So it's important for us to train them on our industry, the whys we're doing things, so they can get on board a little bit. But it is challenging, because if you do the same thing you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. So we have to change it so we can be more progressive.
Awesome. Change is tough for everyone. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that. Melissa, what's been a point for you all?
So one of our challenges across a 450-person company, which is still much smaller than some of the other panelist companies here, is communication. Things change so rapidly. As simple as when someone is a new face at one of our clinic locations, and someone from another clinic location doesn't know who came on board. I'll say this seems like a small thing, but it is something that has really helped us. Is we send out an internal newsletter regularly that kind of compiles all of this information that lets everyone know across the organization that we care, that they know what is going on, whether you're in our central business office or at our Bartlett Clinic location, no matter your schedule, no matter who your daily interactions are with, that it's just as important for the nurse on the floor at a surgery center to know that we have a new, a new person in our accounting office as it is for our CFO. So we try to get the communication out regularly and to treat all of it as very important across the organization.
Yeah, when you laid that out, it reminds me, kind of, Thomas, of what you were talking about when you were describing the culture you currently have, and I think about inclusion. But I know you've been through a wide, you had a very interesting background, and so as you've designed culture for either existing at Evolve or in your previous stint, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in that area, and how did you lead teams to overcome it?
I think, here at the bank, when Scott and Scott started the bank in 2005, there were 7 people, 7, singular 7. And now we're at almost 400 in 15 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. And just Monday, we onboarded almost 10 new people. So even though companies right now are cutting back and reducing workforce, we're adding. So the communication is really key. And what Melissa talked about, the newsletter is certainly very important for us because folks do feel like as we grow that they become a number, not a person. And we don't want to lose that personal touch. So we want to make sure that even as we grow into the hundreds of people, that everybody still feels like there's a connection, and there's no better way to do that than to introduce them. And so anytime we hire, I'm the one that puts out a new hire announcement of everybody. And we just give backgrounds, we give a photo so people, if they see each other, they know who they are, and a little personal story anecdote about them. And that really makes them feel like they're onboarding into a company, that they feel welcome. And it's also a good way to allow other folks to reach out. If there's a common denominator, if they're Tigers fans, for instance, you can just email and say, welcome aboard, go Tigers, go. And that just breaks the ice. So I think, growing pains, and then the same thing in television, when you go from a small station to a large station, people tend to feel lost, and you don't want them to feel isolated, and really keeping that personal touch. And it starts at the top with Scott and Scott, and at the other areas of general managers or presidents of companies, it's really got to start there, that they walk around and keep that personal connection.
Okay, so a couple of you have talked about the current landscape and where we find ourselves today. So Bob, I want to start with you on this one. As COVID-19 has impacted every single business, either negatively or positively, have you noticed a shift in culture? And if so, what are you doing to address it?
Sure. It's interesting the way you phrase that question. Has there been a shift in culture, and what are you doing to address it? There might be an inference from that of there's been a shift in your culture, and what are you doing to fix it? Because when it came to me as a written question, that's what I was thinking. And so I was a little introspective and started thinking about how our culture has changed. It's changed a lot. For those of you who are on the call who've been part of any of the Saga or PCG events, we're social animals. Happy hour is a regular reoccurring thing here in our building, and we invite everyone in the chamber on a regular basis out to our many socials and charity events. It's hard to make that culture sustain in this environment. And when you think about my other locations, which happen to be in Taiwan, Shanghai, Indonesia, and Vietnam, they've kind of struggled a little bit too. Most of those people couldn't come into work, just like us. So has it changed? Absolutely. The dynamic in the comfort area that I have had the opportunity to lead from has been gone. So how do we choose to address this? We actually are experiencing the COVID pandemic. We started it in December of last year in our Asia locations, and that was right on top of a Chinese USA trade war. So it's been a real joyous time for us between panic, economic crisis, and trade war. What we did is we just went to our team members and said, hey, listen, we don't know how bad this is going to get, and we don't know how long it's going to last. So let's give some real truth here. And we had the pleasure, I spoke with my wife, the most important partner in my life, and we were able to make the decision and say, folks, you don't have to worry about employment until the end of 2020. We've got you covered till then. So first of all, don't worry about losing your job or being furloughed. That was something that is tough to share with people because you say, hey, I know where that money's coming from as the business owner, right? But when we were able to make that commitment, we made that commitment because we recognize the great value we got from our team members in creating the stability to be able to say, you don't have to worry about employment. But it is a sacrifice. And so we made the comments and said, listen, we're making this commitment, but we're expecting something from you. And we know that our work environment is going to be different. It's going to be harder to remain focused when you're remotely working. It's going to be harder to be effective and efficient. We're going to ask you, we're sharing our love with you in the way that we think that that is beneficial and hopefully helpful to you. We're asking you to share your love back to us. Remain committed to the cause. It may not be as much fun as it was before during this pandemic, but ultimately, as we continue to do our jobs of being effective and efficient, we will all sustain together, because keeping the company profitable allows everyone to be maintain employment, hopefully in 2021 when this is all over with. So it was, how did we address it? Some very candid and uncomfortable conversations and a request that we all hold each other accountable.
All right, Melissa. Yeah, I'm imagining COVID has impacted your line of work.
It truly has. There was a moratorium on elective surgeries for a while, and everyone here was concerned about what our patient volumes would be, and if we would be able to sustain employment for all of our employees. Of course, it injected this level of uncertainty and instability, but it also ended up being a really good opportunity for our leadership to show by example what truly being in something together was, and that we are truly a family. So we did have this shift where people were concerned and asking a lot of questions, but the leadership team came together, and I totally credit our physicians and our C-level management with making the decision and the commitment to keep everyone employed fully, while also trying to be flexible with their hours, knowing that we didn't need as many people on staff at the time. So they were able to let parents go home and be with their kids while also maintaining their full salary throughout the worst part of the pandemic before we were able to open back up in May. And I think seeing that commitment from leadership had this really positive impact on everyone. Ken Jenkins, he sent out an email out, it was, I believe in late March, early April, that said, here's what we're doing, and we're going to request that everyone, you just put your best out there, be your most flexible. We're not asking anyone to come to work now at 40 hours a week anymore right now, because truth be told, we don't need you. But we're going to pay you at your regular salary, and just be as flexible with us, as open with us as we can, and we'll be flexible and open back. And it really gave everyone this sense of we are all in this together, and everybody's going to be pulling their own weight and helping out where we can be, checking in on each other. So really, I think has had this weird effect of improving some relationships and improving this sense of family, or expediting that sense of we're all together from this merger that happened, a little over a year ago to September of 2020.
So Tera, what has the collision of COVID and culture looked like at IMC?
Okay. It definitely has impacted our business. It's impacted our culture, I would think. And as trying as it's been, I can honestly say I think it's been as positive as you can have it. I look at our leaders. They've really stepped up to communicate with our employees. We're a trucking company. So our dispatchers and our customer service, Representatives are typically in there. They're speaking with our drivers. Well, to keep them safe, we had to start doing things electronically. Our CIO, Joel Tracy, really stepped up and made sure that our drivers can get their dispatches through their tablet and they don't have to have that face-to-face contact, but you can still kind of keep it personal. So they miss things like that. They've also stepped up and let our office employees work from home for the majority of the time. Here at corporate, we do 50-50. So half are in the office, half are out. So you still have some of that connection. But honestly, it's kind of like she said before, our employees have more common ground now than they've ever had. So where maybe they couldn't discuss certain things or didn't feel as that they do, they have that common ground. They can talk about, oh, how is this affecting you? How is your family? I've seen more caring go on than anything. I know employee or emails that I receive a lot of emails, and typically they're complaints. I've had more thank you emails and thanks for the caring from the company side than I've ever had.
That's awesome. All right,
Oh,
Thomas.
may I jump in on that just a little bit? Sorry for jumping in on your facilitation. But, because we made a point of verbalizing and recognizing how difficult things could get, because we never really knew. We experienced very much the same thing that Tera has outlined. We started spending time at our meetings specifically asking for people to call out what they're thankful for and how they are blessed in their current situation. And I think that's extremely important when we are in our darkest of days, to make sure that we force ourselves to say, hey, I'm happy, I'm fortunate because. And I think as leaders, when you're talking about a culture, it's imperative that you don't get caught into the vortex that can be the ugliness of what's going on. And sometimes it's just as silly as doing that old, Thanksgiving dinner thing of let's go around the table and say what we're thankful for. Absolutely. And that spurs positivity and positive culture.
It really does. And I did leave off, we did send out an email to all of our employees, kind of just outlining, look, here, there's a lot of unknowns. So we took a lot of precautions. We did have to cut the employee match for 401k and certain things like that. We also asked our employees if there's things that you can think of that would help us save costs so we don't have to cut salaries or cut employees. And just the collaboration from that open communication was amazing. And I mean, we've been able to restore that 401k so they see that we're keeping our word, but it's been a good experience.
What I've heard all three of you that have gotten a chance to answer, and Thomas, I'm coming to you next, but sharing essentially is that not only is your leadership involved, but you're inviting the employees into this conversation. And using the Thanksgiving table analogy, while yes, we have a lot to be thankful for, people are also, it's a scary time. And so the more that people feel they have a voice, the more vested they are in the solutions that are being brought to the table. Now, Thomas, you sit at a crossroads really, because not only do you have to protect your own employees as COVID has hit, but you're also in the banking world. You all have played important roles in helping companies stay afloat, helping people guide through their personal finances. So can you share a little bit about the challenges and how they've been met from the Evolve standpoint?
Sure. One of the first things being a bank, we have the luxury of different loan programs. So we did offer a emergency COVID loan for any employees that were impacted by the COVID, so that whether it was themselves or a family member, that they could apply with a low rate and special terms for employees. So we were able to do that. So that was really something that we were able to do that really made a huge impact, that we were willing to help during these times. And like everyone else said, we offered benefits through the end of the year, and we're in the position of the PPP loans really gave us an injection for the year. We did over 700 PPP loans. And believe it or not, that took almost every division in the bank assisting. It was so much paperwork, it was so much processing. But the best part was a lot of these small businesses that were able to stay afloat because of the loan sent us these awesome emails and testimonials about, we had, special ed schools in California that needed money to stay afloat. So to see that feedback come in after our small business lending division was working nights, weekends, through the holidays, almost 24/7 to process all these loans because they were very complicated. So we were able to keep that afloat, which was very good. And we've been able to help a lot of businesses stay open. And the one thing I just was going to mention about the leadership and the C-suite, at the very beginning, again, it's all about communication. And like Bob mentioned, we're a social group here at Evolve. We do something social every month. So not to have anything social is kind of, we're all having withdrawals. So we just did a few things. We had all of our C-suite executives do video messages and we strung them all together to send out to everybody. We did 2 different contests. One, your best work from home photo, whatever that was, and whoever had the best view out your window. So we have folks working in Colorado that have these beautiful mountains. So to keep that engagement going, and even those of us that remained in the office after we reduced capacity, we bought lunch every day for, I think, 3 months for everyone that was in the, when we were really at our lowest level. So folks didn't have to venture out because there was nowhere to go to get food really at that time. So we brought in lunch. We got more, food always brings thanks. And so we got a lot of good feedback. And what it also did is we did a Mid-South Food Bank fund drive. So the money you would have spent on going out to lunch or Starbucks, we asked to bring in canned goods for the Mid-South Food Bank. So even in the midst of this crisis, we were still able to do a charity drive, which we're normally doing anyways, because employees felt so thankful that they were getting fed every day. What could we do to give back? So we still kept that charitable giving going, even while, some of us were struggling with, how to deal with the COVID.
Sure. All right. Well, that segues perfectly into the first question that's come in from the audience. And this shifts the focus from internal to external. So the question is, culture internally is certainly very important to the health of a company. Explain how important your internal culture can benefit your community outside of the company. Thomas, you did that.
I mean, and that's a perfect example. I didn't mean to jump the shark there, but being able to still do the Mid-South Food Bank drive, we've done 2 actually since COVID has started, has really you put a box out and say you can wear jeans if you bring canned goods in. We get so many canned goods. So we had canned goods. We also did monetary because we wanted to keep it as clean and sterile as possible. And we've really raised thousands of dollars during this whole time period because people internal were thankful for working from home. I mean, we had 150 people in this building and now we have about 30. So the rest of those folks are home, and being able to keep them engaged, because we're a very, like I said, Bob mentioned too, social group. So even for me, I look outside where the cubicles, there's no one out there. And it's kind of scary a little bit. But so we want to make sure that those folks that are home are engaged, and they've wanted to give back. I mean, the food bank drive was not our idea. That came from an employee. So we're really happy that they feel so secure that they want to also help their fellow community. And
for those that are working from home, do they wear your pajama pants on a Zoom call if you give it?
Really, whatever they want. They're lucky.
That's right. Okay, so anybody else see how your internal culture is impacting the community at large?
I think it's a little bit of a tee up that Michael Detroit asked that question. But I'm gonna make a specific a call out to his great organization. Michael Detroit runs a nonprofit, and most of you know about it. And we were able to partner with him to create a very interesting scenario. And the story goes, and then it'll go to the benefit. But Saga always has philanthropic events going on one of our companies here. And we were able to partner with Michael's organization, where they were able to give us the tickets for an entire seating for one of the shows. And so what we were able to do then is our company bought them, but then gave them to 2 other nonprofits that were able to use them as a fundraiser. So that created tax benefit for us, benefit to the community through Michael's organization, and benefit to the other 2 nonprofits, Camp Conquest and Shepherd's Haven, all at the same time. So there's a lot of money that was generated from that event. Plus there was a lot of connection of multiple charities that have the opportunity to feed off each other and say, wow, we didn't know about you, so we'd like to become more involved. But it also comes back to our company and our culture. Because our team gets to do things like this on a regular basis, and it's important enough that we drive it as a priority, we are something more than a place that they go to just to make a dollar. When they get up in the morning, it's not, let's figure out how we can make Bob more wealthy. I wish they all jumped out of bed that way, but that's not probably what's getting them excited about going to work. They're excited about going to work because they're part of something more than punching a clock and getting an income. So it's a big circle of life there by that analogy that I just gave you. We were able to give back to the community. The community gives back so much to us because we all feel good and valuable together.
Absolutely. And I think, this question is certainly a pre-COVID, post-COVID question as well. So, Melissa, Tera, any thoughts on community and culture?
So backing up to pre-COVID, when we first came together OrthoSouth in 2019, it became imperative, our leadership was thinking about, okay, how do we build this cohesive culture and bring everyone together? So they thought of this, we need to have a shared vision. And that shared vision ended up being the mission statement to be the best orthopedic practice in the United States as measured by the patient experience. So that is external facing, right? We want our patients to have an exceptional experience when they come to see us. It is important that they receive great orthopedic care, but that should be the baseline of any healthcare organization, is they're providing great care. So we wanted to go above and beyond and say they also need to have an exceptional experience. So Kim and the physicians thought about how to create a framework for that, and ended up enlisting the Ritz-Carlton to come and do training for all 450 or so employees and physicians on the staff about how to create an exceptional customer experience anytime, for every point of contact that someone has with someone in our organization. And in order to do that, you really kind of have to start with the core, which is how are we doing this for each other and kind of building inside out. So the Ritz-Carlton came and did this training, and it has affected how we work with patients, but it also has kind of reinforced and built this core of like, how do we treat each other, and created this foundation of, respect and empathy, checking in on your coworkers, dialoguing with your coworkers on a daily basis. And then it kind of flows out from there. It doesn't stop with your coworkers, because now you're meeting with patients every day, and you're treating them the same way you treat these people that you enjoy working with. And then, it moves into the community and has people asking, well, what can we do to go above and beyond with the schools that we work with? Can we do a little extra? Can our athletic trainers provide extra services, especially during the current pandemic? And we've seen too, the same as some of the other groups here, where employees come to us and say, can we donate to the Feed the Front Lines, the group in Germantown that is feeding the frontline workers every night? Can we do a food drive during the summer in order to help supplement families in need across the Mid-South? So it starts internally, and then it flows out, because you can't, once you have something kind of strong built up like that, you don't stop. It doesn't stop internally. It just kind of ends up bleeding out into the community, and going beyond even your direct constituents, but everywhere else.
Absolutely. Right, so another one that has come in. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, for us, it was more, I won't say like an external charity per se. For us, with our essential workers being the drivers, and they were really on the front line every day. They're the ones going out to come, and they didn't get to stop because of COVID. We did a campaign called Thank a Driver. And so we sent it out to local schools, which just ended up being across the United States, where kids would draw a picture thanking a driver. We locally at our depot, we provided driver's lunch, not just from our company. Other drivers would come in and out too. Mark George, our chairman, actually, and his wife, Melinda, gave the lunches out and thanked them personally. And then our marketing department, they have all of our drivers and all of the applicants that have applied. So they would send out those drawings from the children to them. And it was really rewarding from the schools and everything, because I mean, even I know I got emails saying, can I come back and work for you all now? I mean, that's a huge impact when someone wants to come work for you because they see that you're trying to help them.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I would say when you are known for great things in your community, you're going to naturally attract talent.
Right.
So this is a big shift in gears for one of the questions that has come in, and it is dealing with personnel issues. So the question is, when you have an otherwise high-performing colleague who's not fitting well in your culture, what actions do you take? Tera?
So when you have, okay, can you repeat the question again, just to make sure?
Yes, you have an otherwise high-performing colleague, great on paper, is not fitting well into the culture. What actions do you recommend being taken, or how does your company handle that?
I think it's important that that individual, a lot of times what happens is you have their supervisors. They're probably the ones who come to me or to my HR manager, and they're like, here's what's going on. And either they're really, look, we got to get rid of them, or they want to. So you walk them through the process of, okay, what's going on? A lot of times it might be, last week I heard this on the thing, everybody's perception is the reality. What is this person's perception? There's probably something going on. So if you dig down and understand why maybe they're not on the culture, maybe they're not a fit, but you owe it to them to dig down and understand more about them. And then also there's all that other side of the story. Maybe it's just not a fit between, they just don't get along with their supervisor, or maybe it's a coworker. So you have to get granular and then have those open discussions. I've had that happen quite a bit, and we've been really successful. Sometimes it takes maybe for a little bit on a weekly basis just to check in, and having a moderator, which is a lot of times me or my HR manager, what's going on? How's this week going? And explaining to them that, you don't have to get along. You don't have to agree with everything, but we all have a common goal. Let's move forward positively. And 90% of the time it works out.
All right. So we're starting to get the hang of the attendees asking questions. So I'm gonna shift gears and send this one to Bob. On the flip side, how do you coach someone into your culture? You have to come off mute. You have to give an answer.
It's so tricky. It gets harder doing these the older I get. Coaching people into the culture is a real skill set that, I'll be honest, may not be my best. And so what I would have to say here is from a leadership perspective, I sure hope you've taken the time to find leaders that'll be around you to help you. I'm big about the love and the touch and the feel and all those kind of things. I'm not as good when it comes to tolerance, right? So I have to be stretched myself if someone's not fitting into the team. I assume everyone's an adult, and so I'm going to be real blunt with them when we work through why they're not fitting in and not performing real well. But I also am surrounded by people who are better than this, than me. Some of you know them, I'm sure. And so definitely I would suggest, beyond all the smart and intelligent things that Tara said, bring in your HR professionals and those who have that skill set. But I will also say this, I buy companies, I do mergers, and I do acquisitions. And if you get into a situation where someone or some group of people are just not going to be part of the culture, it is important for you to understand that you do need to make the tough decisions. One of the things that I share with every company that I move into, new acquisition or a buy-in, is expect some casualties. And you say, gee, that's not lovey or touchy like you say you are, Bob, but the reality is it is. Whenever you're trying to get people to get in and be part of your culture, if it just isn't going to work out, it's important for us as leaders to be able to make the right decision, to know that that team member then should not be part of the entity moving forward. Because when you're trying to implement cultural change, there's a great book, Switch, by Chip and Dan Health. They talk about the fact that when you're trying to get people to adopt to a new culture, there's approximately 20% that say we're right on board and they jump in. There's about 50% that say, hey, you know, we're going to wait and see. And then there's those remaining people who are actively trying to, you know, subvert your success on that cultural change. And we as leaders tend to spend a lot of time on that 30% thinking, hey, if we can change them, things will be better. I will tell you, the people who deserve our effort and energy are the 50 who are in the wait and see and the 20 who are being committed to us. So maybe that gets to my last answer is, after you've made all the attempts that Tara's spoken about and otherwise people, the reality is demonstrate your commitment to the remainder who are committed to the culture, and it should be self-fulfilling that the person will either choose to adopt or leave.
Awesome. I'm gonna read for the group. This is not a question, but a letter of thanks. So it says, as a not-for-profit arts group who's been doing everything to hold our staff, hold on to our staff while we're closed to the public, I want to thank all of you. You shine the light on large organizations concentrating on staff and work culture, and reminded me that we are not alone. Thank you for all you do and for taking care of your people. You know, for those of us that do have the luxury of larger budgets or you know, not being in lines of business that were completely shut down, we sometimes forget just how difficult it is for those on the other side. So thank you for acknowledging the impact that it's had for those that are on the other side. And so the next question that has come in kind of speaks to that a little bit, and that's for those companies without a budget, what are free ways to build a culture? I'm open mic.
It doesn't take anything to have a call or a Zoom meeting, and there's all kinds of ideas. I'm a huge Pinterest. I have 3 kids, so I'm a huge Pinterest mom. There's employee bingo. You can play that over the phone just to build that team morale and build that culture. There's a dice game you can do. I mean, there's just different activities that cost nothing that you can do to help keep that connection and build it even further. But you have to make the step. The phone goes both ways, Zoom goes both ways.
You know, one thing we did here was we did a town hall just in September, and we put Scott in front of the camera and let employees ask questions, and that was, you know, that was easy to do. That was a Teams call. We use Teams, and that was an opportunity for employees to feel like their voice was being heard, and that's something you could do very easily. And we had a huge response, so big that we're going to be doing them more frequently. That was our very first town hall, and we felt the time was right, and we got such a huge response from it. We had, like I said, we have almost 400 employees. We had almost 300 people on the call that were asking questions to Scott and Scott. So they loved it, the interaction. We're already planning our next one. So that's something, again, it's all about the communication. Communication's free. So the more you communicate both ways, as Tara said, the better.
Absolutely.
I just want to say one other thing that is completely free is showing in person that you care about the people you work with and about your coworkers. And I think that at OrthoSouth, that's one thing, especially at our central business office, that leadership here does very well. Our CEO comes in every day, says hello to everyone he talks to or everyone he passes, makes a point of getting to know the new call center rep, who, he may not have even known was hired until, last week, but actually asking questions and being invested in people, so that when you see the CEO of the company speaking to you, or the vice president of finance speaking to you, you're an important part of what's going on there. And it builds a relationship for, across all levels of the organization. No one feels like they're unapproachable, which really encourages that interaction and that engagement, and makes people feel like, oh, if I have a problem, I can go to my supervisor. I can even go to the top of the company and voice my concerns, which is exactly what we want.
Exactly. Yes. That's a beautiful reminder that all of us want to be seen and we want to be heard. And now more than ever, as leaders, that's what we're tasked with, in keeping people together. So we're up almost out of time. So I want to ask one more question. I'm going to ask each of you to answer it, and then I'll turn it over to Nancy. As we close, can you give us your best success story for your company through its history when it comes to creating a culture connection? Something that you and your company are most proud of. Who wants to go first? All right, I'm calling on you, Bob. You're first. What are you most proud of?
There's a specific experience that just really brings joy to me. One of the things about having offices offsite, meaning in Asia outside of the United States, is one of the perks that we're able to provide is, if you've done well in your job, you get to come and spend time in the Memphis organization, because within the company, it's become kind of like cultish kind of experience of go spend 90 days at Memphis. They have a great time and are highly productive. Well, some of our leaders, line level supervisors, et cetera, were able to come and spend some time with us. And they said, we just love your culture. You guys have so much fun. And we have been doing a lot of service projects. So we brainstormed how they can improve their culture back in this organization. I'm not going to mention it because I know you post these on YouTube, and I don't want them, calling out which division it was. But they went back to that division and they came up with service projects, which improved the cohesiveness of that team. And not surprisingly, the profitability of that entity continued to grow. Not only that, but the reduction in turnover was significant, because by choosing to work together for something greater than just making the dollar and choosing to focus on those that were less fortunate than themselves, they realized how great things are, and they got a cohesiveness that really impacted the culture, which came back to the bottom line.
Awesome. Tera?
For me, it's every time we go through an acquisition and we get a little bit stronger each time. Initially, you look back, maybe 10 years when we had our first one, and we didn't go out on site in person. Now, everyone, I make sure that myself or one of my team members are out there meeting each individual. That in-face, tangible, holding their hand, telling them about our culture, communicating with them, really helps them open their mind of coming from the culture they were in, which a lot of times Mark George does a great job of making sure that the cultures are very similarly aligned, but there's still going to be differences. So bringing them here, going through our process, going through our training, communications, but just that face-to-face, easing their fears, because it's very frightful for them, is very successful. And how we measure that is, I still have people from 2000, 2006, they're still here. They're still very ingrained in what we're doing. And of course, our profitability has come up, but to me, it's successful when that person has stayed and our mission has become their mission.
Melissa, I see you nodding.
Oh, yeah, I can, even from past experience in other organizations, know exactly what Tara's talking about. For us at OrthoSouth, probably our biggest success story is the huddles, because it's a weekly theme around which the entire organization is focused. Typically, it might be empathy one week, and we're all breaking into these small groups, 5 to 10 people per group, just discussing what that theme means to you and how we're going to implement it that week at an individual level, across our divisions, and they are repeatable. So they're themes that we come back to and continue reinforcing over time to just kind of build layer over layer that focus and create habits, good habits across the organization. But it's something that we do together, that we are all talking about together that week. And again, across 8 clinics and 450 people, just makes us feel like we're doing something at the same time together as one large group.
All right, Thomas, 30-second success story.
The best thing we did was we created a social committee. So each division, each department had to send a member from their division. They meet every month, and they map out a calendar of employee engagement activities for the whole year. And that really has made a huge difference. And it's a committee that people want to be on. And a lot of times our employee engagements also lead to charitable contributions, because we do a Jeans Day once a month. You pay $5 and we pick a charity. But they do more than that. They plan all of our events throughout the year, and it's the voice of the people. They're the ones that we want to engage. So it's not C-suite people. It's everyone from upper management to entry level that are on the committee. So a social committee has really been a good impact for us.
Sounds better than the audit committee. Well, all right, you all have shared incredible ideas. I'm going to turn it over to Nancy for this last minute, and thanks for participating and for giving us your insights.
Yes, so I just share my thanks. You all said, what you're happy and grateful for. My round of thanks goes to each of you, Chairman Circle Investor representatives. You all shared with such authenticity and inspiration these insights and real opportunities for all of us. It was so actionable. So Sally Pace, great to see you again. You did a beautiful job, just giving everybody a chance to kind of be their best selves on this program today. This is the 4th of our 4-part series. So I will say, I think we saved the best for last. You guys just hit it out of the park. I want to give my biggest thanks actually to Amy Daniels and Tanjali, who made all of this happen so gracefully. And of course, to all of you attending on video, on audio, however you could sign on. You all make the chamber run very smoothly. It's 1 o'clock. I will say adios, grateful, very much appreciate each of you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be well. Bye-bye.